Was he killed? He asked. Hey, that's LA, she said. A young black guy walked by carrying a soda and a bag from 7-Eleven. He wore shorts and no t-shirt, his body like a kickboxer's, a comb sticking from his afro. He pointed at Sherry with the bag hand and said, "What's happening, homegirl?" "Hey, Roger," she said. "You hung over again?" He laughed. Joey looked at her, at those shiny black eyes that knew so much. Yes, she was too good for him. "Come on," she said, and they walked out of the complex and down the street from her house. They crossed through a large parking lot full of cars, and Joey couldn't help but feel good with her. They walked into the grocery store, and she led them to the bins of candy which sold by the pound. And she took one for her and one for Joey, and they walked down the aisles looking at the stuff as they popped the candy in their mouths. When they passed the milk cartons, Sherry said, "Don't forget to get milk for Junior." And Joey said, "Of course, dear. How could I forget our little one?" And that led them to the game they played for the next several hours, like they were married. They went into a furniture store and picked out couches for their house, a TV, a table, and a bed. And they went to Kmart and picked out sheets and towels and smaller kitchen appliances. And they ran after the blue lights spinning on the poles like cop sirens to pretend to want to get there first before the best bargains were gone. They stopped to watch a circle of ladies wearing scarves on their heads, surrounding a table full of t-shirts and shorts, grabbing what they could before the best stuff was gone and the blue light went out. He loved the way they held up the clothes, light shining on their arms, their faces serious as they examined the cloth, ladies like in a religious painting. And when he looked at Sherry, he could see by her fascinated eyes that she too thought there was something beautiful about those women. They crossed the wide avenue to look for a new car, and they called each other dear and honey, and at one point they looked at a Buick Riviera, which Sherry said in a cool Chicana drawl was bien firme. She said to Joey, "Kiss me, dear," and he did, right on the lips, a loud smack, and he liked it. As they were walking through the empty schoolyard, Sherry said that it was getting late and she had better get home. She stopped in front of a building and sat on the lawn, and Joey sat next to her. "I got to teach you how to kiss," she said. "What do you mean by that?" he said. She licked her lips to wet them, and then she leaned over and kissed him. But when he tried to move away after the smack because he thought it was over, she held his lips to hers and moved them around. They slid back and forth over his lips. Then she looked him in the eyes. Now that's a kiss. He wanted to try it again, so he went in for another, and they kissed and kissed until a car passed and honked and someone yelled an obscenity. "They're jealous," she said, but all he wanted was to kiss her more. She stood up. She grabbed his hand and helped him up. "I hope everything works out all right for you," she said. "It will," he said. "The future's a good thing," he said. "Oh, the future," she said, as if the word had been pursuing her. "I don't even want to think about that." Are you guys still there? So you notice how I don't look up the whole time because I don't want to see anyone yawning. Anyway, I just read in the newspaper the other day that Kmart is thinking about bringing the blue light back, and that's kind of depressing for me because I thought it was a bit of nostalgia because the blue light actually comes out a lot in this novel. And Kmart actually plays a very important role because I think when I was growing up in Fresno, California, for us Chicanos, Kmart was a big part of our life. We didn't admit that we shopped there, but we did. And there used to be that joke. Remember the joke? What did the bird say when he flew over Kmart? "Cheep, cheep." Remember that? But now they got super Kmarts. It's different, Anyway, Joey runs away. He goes to downtown Fresno, but there's some gangbangers there. Downtown Fresno is really desolate. It's full of, crumbling buildings and a lot of gangbangers. They take it over at night, and so Joey goes there, and the gangbangers start staring him down after the sun goes down. And Joey gets intimidated, so he goes home, and so he doesn't really run away, and he ends up going. They go to Oregon. And when he gets to Oregon, the first thing that he notices, one of the first things that he notices, there's no Mexicans. He never even thought about it before. Because, there's where he lived, half the people are Mexican, half the people weren't. It was normal. He goes to Oregon, and suddenly there's no Mexicans. And he goes to junior high. He's still only 12 years old. And there's only 3 Chicanos, or 4 Chicanos in the whole school other than him. And everybody's afraid of him. It's like, this is really, when I lived in Oregon, it's kind of the weirdest thing. There were so few Chicanos there, but everyone thought they were like bad. I guess because they were from California and the way they dressed. And so nobody approached those Chicanos. And there's this geeky kid named George, this white kid, who comes up to George and comes up to Joey and he befriends Joey. So Joey and George start hanging out together. And one day George points out the Chicanos. He says, "Don't mess with those guys, man. You know, they're bad. You know, you got to leave them alone." And so Joey, they don't notice Joey. Joey doesn't say anything to them. So anyway, they go into Oregon. And Joey notices. And he says to his dad, he brings this up to his dad, like there's no Mexicans here. And his dad says, "Yeah, we're in Gringolandia." And he told his mom, and she said that it might be good in the long run because that way they really got to know the life of America and would be less confused about who they were. "But I'm not confused," Joey said. "I know who I am." "Okay, then who are you?" "I'm Joey Molina," he said. She laughed and looked at him lovingly. "And who is Joey Molina?" she said. His answer surprised him, not because of how fast and automatic he gave it, but also just because of what he said. "An actor." "Well, that's not really what I mean," she said. "Are you an American or a Mexican?" "Both," he said. "It's hard to explain," she said. The kids at school... He's leaving. He's probably from Medford. See, if you leave, I'm going to embarrass you, so don't leave. Where was I? Okay, so this is Joey in Medford, right? Let me back up. Have you ever been to Medford? It's like a really small town, and at this time it was probably like about maybe 10,000 people, and it's right, near Ashland, and it's a lumber community, a lot of lumber factories there, and that's where his father ended up working at one of the lumber factories. Anyway, the kids at school weren't racist as far as Joey could tell. They treated him like the new kid, not like the new Mexican kid. One day, George handed him a note on the playground and said it was from a girl, to whom he pointed, playing tetherball, a skinny blonde. The note read, "I like you. Do you like me?" And there was yes and no boxes for him to check. He didn't feel a sense of otherness, that being a Chicano was a burden, but still, he just noticed the differences, and there wasn't a single black kid at school. "You guys are leaving too? Did I say something wrong?" Yeah, go, leave. I'm gonna wait till they leave. One cold morning, I don't know if you guys are gonna get this, but let's see if you do. One cold morning, he couldn't find any clean shirts, so Rachel told him to wear one of his dad's flannels. No, he's expecting, man. You better answer it. See if it's her. He's expecting like a kid any minute. Is it it? Oh. It's probably a telemarketer. Do you subscribe to the Tribune? Oh. Wow, we'll have to see how this drama unfolds. Where was I? Okay. One cold morning, he couldn't find any shirts. So his mother told him to wear one of his dad's flannels. You guys get it? You get it, huh? Do you get it? Do you know what the cholos wear? They wear flannels. They wear flannels, right? You know what a cholo is? An urban Chicano, gangbanger looking kind of person. And because it was cold that day, he buttoned it all the way to the top. Right? People at school looked at him differently and then looked away when he looked back, but he didn't understand why. What had changed? Then George saw him, and his eyes, magnified by thick glasses, went wide as he looked Joey up and down. "Wow," George said. "What?" Joey said. "You look like a Mexican," he said. "Well, I am a Mexican," Joey said. "I thought you were Italian." Joey went into the boys' room and looked in the mirror. The flannel buttoned up to the neck did make him look like a Chicano, kind of tough, like a cholo. He posed, put a hand in his pant pocket, extended the other. Orale, he said. Later that day, he was standing in the halls with George, going through his locker, when George tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Don't look now." 3 of them were walking towards him with a cool stride, led by a guy with long hair and a blue bandana. This guy looked older than the rest of them, a goatee and a teenager thin mustache, but they all walked Chicano-style cool. One of them looked a little geeky, metal frame glasses and short hair, but his pants were baggy and he wore a crisp white t-shirt. He was muscular, his chest pumped up and his arms were defined, his biceps huge, and the closer he got, the less of a geek he seemed. That one stared at Joey hard, scrutinized him. That was Gilbert Sanchez. They stopped in front of Joey and kids scattered, but looked back, wondering if there was going to be a fight. The leader in the blue bandana, Johnny De La Rosa, nodded his head coolly. "De donde eres?" he said. "Soy de Fresno," Joey said. "Orale, Califa," said Johnny, as he extended his hand for the Chicano shake, which Joey gave, and something took hold of him. He was playing a part about a cholo. He suddenly felt like he had been a cholo all his life, like he was tough, someone not to mess with, one of the kids who hangs out in downtown Fresno. "Hi, Johnny, how's it going?" said George. He waved. "Hey, go get me a soda," Joey said. "I'm thirsty." George looked at Joey like he didn't recognize him. "Excuse me," he said. "You heard me. Go get me a cola. And hurry up about it." Okay, I guess I'll go." He started, but then he turned around. Is that all you want, Joey? Just a Coke?" Yeah, Joey said. The Chicanos watched the white boy hurry off. "Why do you think I keep the little gabacho around?" Joey said. "Oh, we thought he was your friend," said Gilbert. Joey introduced Gilbert, and when Joey took his hand for the shake, he could feel Gilbert's strength. With little effort, he could squeeze Joey's hand and break his bones. He was about to lose his coolness, but he remembered that he was playing a role, and he gave the other guys Chicano handshakes too. One of them was David Romero, his hair cut short and slicked back, and he wore slacks, a button-down shirt, and shiny shoes like he was going to church. "We call him Romeo," said Johnny. "Cubo," Joey said. "Hey, Fresno's a pretty cool place, man," said Johnny. "There's a lot of gangs there." "Oh yeah, we're pretty tough over there," Joey said. "So why did you come here?" Johnny asked. "Well, my dad's work, but I tell you, man, I miss Fresno. There's so many white people here." They all laughed. "And I miss my gang," Joey said, just meaning his friends, Sherry and Ricky. But immediately it occurred to him that they would think that he had meant that he was in a gang. He remembered what he looked like in his dad's flannel. He could act any part he wanted to act, especially in a new town, a new state. He could recreate himself. "You were in a gang?" asked Romeo. "Oh yeah," said Joey. "Everyone is over there, man. It's not like this place." They nodded agreement. "Man, over there, you're stupid if you don't carry a knife." They nodded. "And not like this wimpy place," Joey said. "Hey, what was the name of your gang?" Gilbert asked, like he was skeptical. Los Aztecs." "Hey, that's cool," Johnny said. "Yeah, Los Funky Aztecs," Joey said. "Yeah," Johnny said. "Hey, I got a cousin in Fresno," said Gilbert. "I never heard of that gang." "It's pretty new," Joey said. "We started out on our own because the other ones were just a bunch of maricones." Maricones means gay. They're just a bunch of, it's a derogatory term for gays. "That's cool," said Johnny. "We were thinking about starting a gang here, but there's only a few of us." "That's all it takes," Joey said. "We started off with 2 funky Aztecs, man, but by the time I left, there were about 80 of us." "Hey, you should join us," said Romeo. "Although there ain't too many of us in this whole town," Johnny said. Yeah, Joey said. "This is Gringolandia." They laughed. When George brought back Joey's soda, Joey patted him on the back and said, "You're a good kid for a gabacho," and they laughed again. He sipped his soda he sipped his soda. "Damn, this is cold. This shit tastes good," he said. He looked at George. "I like your cola," he said. The last word he said with a Mexican accent because he thought it would sound cool, not realizing that it had changed the meaning. "You like his cola?" asked Gilbert. Then it occurred to Joey that cola meant butt. They started looking real disgusted with him. The other gangs were maricones, said Gilbert. Are you sure it was the other gangs? They all laughed at Joey. Well, I mean, maybe we should leave these two alone, said Gilbert. Shit, man. You guys don't know fucking shit, Joey said, even though he didn't know what he would say next. Well, what don't we know, said Johnny. Gilbert stepped in closer. In Fresno, man, in Califas, said Joey, when you say you like someone's cola, man, it means that that they better not mess with you because you want to kick their ass. You want that cola to kick it. Oh, I get it, said Romeo. Yeah, all the vatos in Fresno say it, Joey said. Well, that's cool, said Johnny. Man, Joey said, shaking his head in pity, you guys have been in Gringolandia for way too long. You don't know shit. You better take some Chicano lessons, man. Maybe you can help us, Romeo said. We're thinking about starting a clica. We don't need no help, Gilbert said. Yeah, man, maybe you can give us some pointers and shit. It's been a long time, Johnny said. And he offered Joey his hand for the Chicano shake. I think I've been reading long enough. That's it. I mean, if you have questions, I'll be, but if you want to know the rest, got to read the novel. If somebody has a question, I'd be glad to. Yeah, I mean, but don't feel pressured to ask a question because I don't feel pressured to answer. Yes, Jerry Garcia, not to be confused with Jerry Garcia.
Is Joey you when you were in Oregon growing up?
Yes and no. Yes and no. I was really actually stronger than Cherry. There's elements of all my characters, yeah, I think. But yeah. Yes and no. Almost completely and almost not at all. Anything else? Anything? No?
I actually have a question.
That's cool, man.
You can ask me a question.
Yes. You want me to go around like Jerry Springer? Yeah, ask your question.
Actually, I noticed the names you put on the board. They're what I call they're anglicized. Like Guillermo, not Veronica, not Jose, Raquel, but you anglicized the names. Is there a reason for that?
They're an American family. That's what they go by. Yeah, they live in a pretty much a Anglo culture. Right, absolutely. My name's Daniel. But I always say Daniel. Because if I don't, then people start calling me Danielle. I say, Danielle. It's like, no, Danielle, that's a not that I'm, afraid of my sexuality or anything like that, but, I said, no, that's a woman's name. I'm Danielle. And probably the same reason. Who can say Raquel? Who can say it? You're going to end up saying Raquel, and it's going to be like Raquel Welch. Who can say Guillermo? Who can say it, Probably that. I think that's one, right? Right, Jerry? Okay, wait. I'm going to do the Jerry Springer thing, man. Tell me your name and where you're from.
I'm Eugenio. I'm from the Philippines and Califas. I want to know if your characters speak Spanish. Do they go to Mexico? Do they have much contact with Mexican culture?
Rachel is the only Mexican among them, and she sometimes she breaks out in Spanish, forgets that she's even speaking it. The father is a Chicano. He uses a lot of Chicano words like "orale" and things that Joey picks up. But generally, they speak English around the house. All of them. Joey can understand Spanish, and his grandparents who don't speak it, he can communicate with them. But he screws up a lot. Sometimes he can't speak it at all, and then other times it clicks and he can. Which I think is a lot of people that live in the United States, I think, have that experience. Anything else? Okay, then I'm going to sing a song. That's it? No, nobody? Okay, here's some. See, I've always wanted to be like a talk show, like Phil Donahue.
What's the meaning of gabacho?
Gabacho means white person. It's like gringo. It's a very Chicano term, gabacho. It's like, where are you from?
Spain. gabacho in Spain is French. Yes.
I'll remember that when I go to Spain. Anybody else?
Have you ever been to Valencia, California?
Valencia? In Southern California? Yeah, I used to live in Southern California. I lived in Lakewood, Long Beach, and Seal Beach.
They still have a pawn shop in Fresno?
No, that went out in the 70s. I think it lasted like 2 weeks. Seriously. You're talking about where you could go buy those 10-cent sodas? Yeah, no, I think, do you remember that? The pop shop? I think it lasted really like, it was like a fad. You have to buy a whole crate of sodas, but they were 10 cents each. And you had to return the bottles. So, that's it? Oh, wait. I'm gonna sit down.
No, come back. In her introduction, Evelina mentioned the New York Times review and stereotypes that the critic might have been expecting of Chicanos in your works. And I wondered if there are certain themes or types of characters that you consider to be cliches that you want to avoid.
I want to avoid the wise grandmother making tortillas, over the comal, and saying wise things, because I think that's probably one of the most, one of the biggest stereotypes or images in Chicano literature. And so I try to avoid that. In fact, when we see Joey's grandmother, she doesn't know how to cook. I mean, one morning Joey wakes up and she's frying these weenies and eggs, and the weenies have been in the refrigerator so long they got that white film on it, and it stinks up the whole house. And Joey says, "I'm not going to eat that." And that, and also the part I read to you where Rachel says to Joey that, what are you, American or Mexican? That's the only time I even deal with identity in the whole novel. It's like 400 pages. It's not about identity at all. And I tend to, after my first book, try to avoid, the identity stuff and the cultural stuff that, Does that answer your question? Yes, sir.
Do you really think the scene with the toes is not about identity?
Well, you can read identity into it, but what it's about what happens next. And how Joey ends up getting away from acting for a while. But really what it's about this kid who wants to be an actor. So there are identity issues, I think, that are probably going to happen to any hyphenated American, but it's not a novel about identity. It's not a novel about where does Joey belong in the American culture. It's about this 12-year-old kid who wants to be an actor. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. Inevitably it's going to come up. Yes, Paul. So she's not. It's not the kid.
No, it's not the
Okay, because that's good. So we.
I hope you can give us a long answer. What makes you write? What is your motivation? What is it you like about the process?
I would probably kill myself if I didn't write, because I have to. Seriously, I would get depressed and I would feel like life is meaningless. And I, it's not like, I don't know, it's like, I just got to do it. Seriously, if I go like a week without writing, I feel worthless. And it's not that I enjoy the process. In fact, I like having written more than I like writing. Right. Yeah, just like, when you exercise, I run, I like to run, but I like having run a lot better than I like running. Because, but I have to do it because, I don't know what it is, man. I don't know if it's a blessing or if it's a curse. But if I'm not writing, if I'm not doing, doing something, writing specifically, I start to feel like, what the hell am I doing with my life? Why am I teaching at a university where I only teach 2 classes if I'm not going to do something with that time? Is it to, it's like, I'm driven. It's like madness. And like I said, I don't know if it's good or bad. I guess I'll know that in retrospect. I think I've always felt that I needed to be doing something because, well, I don't want to get into psychoanalysis, of, self-analysis, but I was a neglected kid. No, yeah, I don't know. I used to just, I've always just felt that I needed to do something with my life, other than just work. I mean, I work, I don't know, it's hard to explain.
Why don't you talk about your role in your family in terms of your work ethic and
Say that again?
Could you talk about your role in your family in terms of what your family does for a living and your role as a writer and what that means to them? Work.
Oh, yeah. My family working class. My dad, he just retired. My brother's a roofer, although now he's a supervisor, and so he gets to drive around in the truck instead of being on the roof. And my sister, she's 42 years old, and she's just, she's been a worker all her life. Now she's trying to go back to school, and she is actually going back to school. But I'm the only professional in the family, the only one who. Like my dad, he makes fun of me all the time because I wear work boots. He says, "Boy, you don't work. Why do you wear work boots?" But I went to, this is true, last time I went to Fresno, which just about 2 months ago, I hadn't been there in a year, I went to Fresno, and my dad, he still lives in the barrio, and he took me to this Chicano party, this Chacon party, and it's in the backyard, and it was a barbecue, and all the guys had tattoos, and some of the guys are locals, man. They had tattoos right here. They were crazy. And they were playing horseshoes, and they were smoking Yesca. Even the 50-year-old men are, and it's just this backyard full of these Chicanos, most of them gangbangers, and this is like the poorest barrio in Fresno. And my dad would take me from table to table and goes, "This is my son. He wrote a book." Dad, stop it, man. But no, my family are workers, and maybe that has to do with it because I am so privileged. I teach 2 classes a semester, and I make more than my dad ever made in his whole entire life, and I don't even make that much, and even, so yeah, I'm very, very fortunate, very privileged, and they're proud, absolutely. Is that what you want to do? Yeah? Yes, sir.
You're a Chicano writer, you have a book called Chicano Chicanery. Well, what's wrong with the term U.S. Latino? What's wrong with Hispanic or Mexico-American or Mexican-American? Why Chicano?
Well, because, Chacons, Chicano, Chicanery's got good alliteration. I suppose I could have called it Hispanic Hocus Pocus. or Mexican mind games, but I don't know. I like the way it sounded, And also there's, I can, and Jerry Garcia's students probably don't want to hear this again, but I went into this whole big thing about where the term Chicano came from, and I think that in a lot of ways this first book has a lot of Chicanismo in it. That is, a lot of identification with the Chicano movement, and the origins of the Chicano movement. But I'm comfortable with Chicano, but there's a lot of Mexicanos that hate that term, and so when I'm around them, I'm a Mexicano. I don't care. I tend to avoid the term Hispanic mostly, but I'm pretty much comfortable with anything. As long as it's not like Spig or something like that.
Why do you avoid the term Hispanic?
It's a given name. It was given to us by the U.S. government, and it pretty much meant to identify anybody with a Spanish surname, whether they're from Spain or whether they're from Cuba or whether they're from California, and whereas Chicano is a name that Chicanos chose to call themselves because it identifies with the Mexica, the Aztec people, Mexica, Chicano, and it's an identification that we are not immigrants. At least in California, in Iowa, I think probably everybody is. But in California, Chicanos aren't immigrants. We've been there for a hell of a long time. Even, some of us are even indigenous to the area, and that's kind of, why it was like we are Chicanos, Mexicas, Aztecs. Yeah. whereas Hispanics was given during the Ford administration to identify just about anybody. Yes, ma'am?
I appreciate your comments earlier, your kind words about Ireland and about Syria.
Yeah, no, I like it here. You know, I've been, these people have been showing me a great time. It's really very comfortable here, and I appreciate it. I will go home with very fond memories of Ames, of this university. Absolutely. I bet I remember your name, Lindsay, you know?
From what you've read tonight, I've heard a lot of verbal abuse in the family. Is that like, are you role playing just like regular middle class, lower class families, or Mexican families, or Chicano families?
You know, it's just Joey's dad. He just doesn't know how to love. I mean, he has a tremendous amount of love for his children, but he just, you know, he really thinks if he calls you an idiot, that, you know, you're going to straighten up because of it. You know, as opposed to nurturing, he's kind of like, you know, you're a worthless piece of shit. He's always telling Joey that, always. And so that's why in part 2 and part 3, a lot of things happen to Joey because he's shaped by his father in many ways. In fact, the novel really is largely about Joey and his father. And yeah, his father's very verbally abusive, but would not even know it. You know, he doesn't even recognize it. Yes, ma'am?
I vote for that tile. I think it's a great tile. Maybe you should ask the room.
Yeah, is that better than Joey Molina, you think?
Vote.
What manner of love is this?
Hands, she wants to see hands.
Okay. She wants-
Burn.
Okay, you guys are abstaining, right?
What's the other title?
Joey Molina?
That's good. You like that? No, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, she wants her hands. They're like,
Manner of love.
what manner of love is this?
Hands. And then do Joy Molina.
Joey Molina. I gotta be mean. Okay, I think we should call it a night.
There are books back there to purchase, and I'm sure that